Good evening. Today is Monday, March 3rd, 2025. I call to order a meeting of the Brockton Finance Committee. Will everyone please rise and join me in honoring our country by saluting our flag?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, agenda item number 1, please.
Item 1, we have the appointment of Dr. Eliza J. Wilson of Brockton, Mass. to the Brockton Redevelopment Authority for a 5-year term ending in February 2030. Invited, Dr. Eliza J. Wilson.
Dr. Wilson, how are you this evening?
Hi. Great. How are you? Good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being before us. Please, if you have any prepared statement, you're welcome to make it.
Hi, my name is Dr. Eliza Wilson. I live at 126 Edson Street, and truly it's an honor to serve on the board of the BRA and play an active role over the next 5 years to be laser focused on the economic development of our downtown.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full City Council.
Second.
Councilors, any questions? Okay, great. A motion has been made and properly seconded for acceptance of this appointment.
All those in favor?
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Matters are unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Wilson, and thank you for stepping forward to serve our city and have a very successful 5 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2, we have the reappointment of Patrick Hill of Brockton, Mass. to the position of Commissioner of Public Works for the City of Brockton for a 3-year term ending February 2028. Invited, DPW Commissioner Patrick Hill.
Commissioner Hill, good evening.
Good evening, councilors.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
I really don't have much to say except, I would appreciate everybody's support. Thankful that the mayor selected me again for another 3 years, and hopefully we can continue the good work we've been doing in DPW.
Motion to recommend
Second.
favorably.
Any questions? Seeing none, a motion has been made and properly seconded. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? It's unanimous.
Good luck.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill, and thank you for your service to our city.
Item 3, we have the appointment of Sandra Knight of Brockton, Mass. to the position of Human Resources Director for the City of Brockton for a 3-year term ending February 2028. Invited, Ms. Sandra A. Knight.
Good evening, Ms. Knight. How are you?
Good evening.
Great to see you again.
Great. It's great to be here. It's nice seeing everyone and new faces I don't believe I met, but nice to see you, Counselor. I'm just excited to be back, or be here, excuse me.
Well, we're happy to have you back. If you have anything you'd like to say, please do so. If not, then we can make a vote.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the next 3 years, and looking forward to working with each and one of you.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening, Sandra. It's good to see you.
Good evening. Good to see you as well.
Sandra, I'm wondering, what improvements will you make to department operations? And I know you know how they operate since you've been here before.
Mm-hmm. Well, to give you a straightforward answer right now, I can't. Only if I get in there, I can really determine what's needed. I did meet with the mayor briefly. And talked about some of his initiatives, working towards DEI, concentrating on that, again, improving our hiring practices and processes. Mm-hmm. And also just organizationally, because we do have a lot of new faces in that department. So a lot of, some professional development and support. So I'm looking forward to that.
So those would pretty much be your focal points?
I would say right now, without really getting in there and, getting my hands in the grind, but yeah.
Great, thank you, and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much, Counselor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Tavares.
Yes. Good night, Sandra, and welcome back. I don't know if you remember me.
I do. It's good to see you again. How are you?
Yes, I'm very good and excited many times to see you. And Sandra, at the time, she does awesome, good job. And in Overstart, I don't know why you just disappeared, because I remember when looking for you, they said you no longer work with us. And everybody was like, oh my God, what happened? But I'm very excited, and I believe in you and in all the employees as well. Believe on your job, and then I'm so excited you're back.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yes, we
I
have some
appreciate
great employees here, and
Yes.
I'm really
You was the
appreciative.
best in town, to be honest with you, that time when there was work. I'm telling you the truth. And then I believe all the employees are going to miss you, and then they're very happy to see you back.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
Motion to recommend
Thank you.
favorably to the entire city council.
Second.
Motion was made and properly seconded. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? This matter is approved unanimously. Welcome back,
Thank you.
Sandra. It's great to have you.
Thank you, councilors. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Thank you.
Number 4, please.
Item 4, we have a resolve to invite Ward 2 City Councilor Maria Tavares, as she is also an appointed special representative of the International Diplomatic Alliance, IDA, a Missouri nonprofit corporation, and any IDA representative she wishes to appear before the Finance Committee of the Brockton City Council to discuss and present concrete examples of the work IDA as a non-governmental organization focused on humanitarian activities with a mission to preserve and address worldwide basic needs, including health care, education, social services, citizen support, food distribution, and combating homelessness. Invited, Ward 2 City Councilor Maria Tavares and Mr. Jared Crockett.
Good evening, gentlemen. Okay, being an outside organization, you guys are probably curious as to what we are and who we are and what we do. Okay, to start out with, my name is Jared Crockett. I'm originally from Kansas. I now reside in Missouri after I retired. And my upbringing came from a very poor family in Kansas, in a small town with barely a pencil spot on the map. And when I actually joined the Army, we had a little roundtable session with the drill sergeants, and the drill sergeant said, okay, well, who are you, why are you here, and what brought you into the Army? So everybody stands up, gives them their name, gives a small speech, and when it got to my turn, he goes, well, why are you here? And I told him, well, my job is I want to change the world. After everybody finished laughing, he sat there with this puzzled look on his face. Okay, then fast forward 30 years after that, when I was getting ready to finalize my retirement, I'm sitting down eating lunch one day, and this older gentleman comes up, passes me on the shoulder, and he goes, I recognize you from across the room. And it's like, do I know you? And he goes, yeah, and he introduced himself, and this is my senior drill sergeant from back in the Army, like 30 years ago. And he goes, I got a question for you. He goes, your little speech that you gave stuck in my mind all this time. He goes, I want to know exactly how you did. Well, after about 28 states and 41 countries, I told him, like, every time I go someplace, if I have the opportunity to make a positive impact on at least one person, then they in turn do that to somebody else, causing a chain reaction. And we've accomplished our mission. And he basically said the same thing. He goes, well, he goes, after you gave that speech, he goes, that was my goal too. He went on to become a sergeant major, he retired, and then 2 years after that, I found out that he actually passed away. He developed cancer while he was in the military. And he gave a speech at his eulogy that I kind of hinted about when him and I was talking. It's called The Dash. And I don't know if anybody's heard of it before, but it was a lady that wrote this poem. It was written as for a eulogy, actually. And it highlights the person's lifetime, because it starts out with the day you're born and then the day that you die. But the dash represents all those years in between, how you lived your life. So part of our mission that we're doing now is we want to try to make that as a habit for everybody else now, to see what are we doing to make a positive impact onto somebody else. And hopefully with you guys' help, we can do that here in Brockton as well as with Massachusetts as a whole. And eventually we're going to start developing more and more through the other 50 states also. Currently, we got about 55 countries that's involved. So we're definitely making an impact, and we see basically the worst of the worst between the homelessness, poverty, poor education, and we actually want to be able to do something for the positive good to help rectify all those. Okay, any questions or?
Councilor Castro.
Good evening, Mr. Crockett. Thank you for
ma'am.
traveling here to be with us. Give me some specific examples of your work.
Okay, we've done quite a bit, just over the last year. We've been doing a lot of different things for food distributions, where we'll get with different organizations, and they'll donate like clothes, food, school supplies, medical supplies, and then we'll go to different communities that I know are having have hard times with them, and we'll go ahead and we'll pass out we'll help with the distributions of all the goods. We have a program that we do every year where we collect school supplies and we give them out to schools that can't afford them. We help out with some of the clothes for the kids that don't have clothes for schools. Just after the last couple of years when we had the floods there in Missouri, we did a lot of work with the different schools to kind of help them out as well. We're trying to set up something with FEMA right now to try to help out with South Carolina and North Carolina, but there's a lot of red tape involved with that to be able to help out, especially being an outside NGO.
And at the rate they're going, there's no one left at FEMA to answer the phones.
It's been a headache for every federal agency in the world.
It sure has.
Because, I mean, just like right now, like with USAID, there's the people that want to do good, but then they got the people behind the desks that are messing it up for everybody else. Nobody wants to answer the phones for them either.
I know engineers who do a lot of their work for USAID, and it's terrible, the projects that are being left in the lurch.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about your organization. How is it funded?
Right now, it's strictly by private donations. We do a lot of self-funding where, like me personally, I'm on retirement. I got nothing but time. So what I'll do is, like, if I find like a school that needs a little bit of assistance, I'll go down, I'll buy school supplies, I'll donate them myself, or I'll go out and I'll do like a little fundraiser through the community and say, okay, well, we got a school here, $500, $200, however much it is that we could deal to. I mean, every little bit kind of helps them out at least, especially the smaller schools.
And you mentioned that you're in 55 countries. How do you hear that organizations or communities need your help in those countries?
The ones that we have representatives for, they keep tabs on every one of the countries that they're involved with. Like recently, we just got accepted into the African Union, where we actually have a representative in Kenya that he can actually go there to the meetings, speak out on behalf of us, and actually have ties with 25 countries within the African nations, so that if one of their counselors says, hey, look, you know, we got this community here that's affected by drought, what can we do? Okay, well, this year for the 2025 project, when we were in Kenya the last time in December, I had a meeting with one of the representatives there, and he's got 2 teams of engineers that's going to start doing water well drillings, so that we're going to actually bring drinkable water to some of the villages that don't have access to anything.
Mm-hmm. And the people who do this work for you, are they all volunteers?
Yes, ma'am.
So even someone doing specialized work like drilling is not paid?
It's all volunteer work. The only thing that's really paid for is when we get the donations to help cover the cost of like the equipment and the gear. That's about it.
And how do you find your volunteers?
People come to us. I mean, we've had a lot of people, it's like through social media, say, okay, well, I see your work. What can we do to help? Well, that's what that's where we start the chain reactions. Okay, like for like the Shop at the Cop program, we say, okay, well, we got 5 officers over here. Each one of them collect like $100 for each child that's involved in the program. We'll take them to Walmart, Target, or wherever, and give them a gift card and say, okay, well, you can buy clothes, food, whatever you need for your family. Well, over the last 3 years, I've had 4 different countries that said, hey, that looks like a pretty nifty idea. So now they're actually starting it now.
Makes me think of that the gentleman, Mr. Rogers, saying, when bad things happen, look for the helpers. It sounds like that's what your organization
Yes, ma'am.
is. Mm-hmm. Thank you for being here
There was
tonight.
a show that was on television probably about a year and a half ago called New Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm.
It was about a doctor that took over a hospital, I believe it was in Boston, by the television show. The first thing that he did when he came in and addressed all the staff was, what can we do to help you? And that's kind of what we based off our motto on, is what can we do for society, what can we do for the cities, communities, or even to the individuals involved. And that's going to be our primary mission now, is if we can't do it ourselves, we find the resources to help out. And either way, we're finding some way, we're going to help you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else? Is that, Councilor Tavares, you have anything to add, or?
Yes, actually, my name is Maria Tavares, Ward 2 City Councilor. Actually, I joined his organization literally 2 years ago, even though I'm part of the organization called Human Rights, which is training in Washington, D.C. And after I become part of his organization, I've been literally 18 countries, advocating for human rights. As far as you can see on Facebook, I'm always post. As of right now, we are just partnered with the Food Bank in Boston. We're going to be starting serving food pantry right in Belmont Street, but we're still waiting on the process. For some reason, they already approve us. We're just waiting for the city to do finalized inspection for us to work with the family need in Brockton. This is what's going to happen right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us this evening, Mr. Crockett.
Been honored being here.
Seeing no further questions, I will,
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second?
motion has been properly made and seconded to recommend this matter favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Matter passes. Again, thank you, Mr. Crockett, for joining us this evening. Have a safe trip home.
Item number 6, resolved, be it resolved by the Brockton City Council to invite Brenda Perez, Chief of Police or her designee, to appear before the Finance Committee to discuss the Brockton Police Department strategy and planning for enforcement and implementation of the ordinance prohibiting camping on public property and the ordinance prohibiting loitering in public places. Invited Police Chief Brenda Perez and/or her designee.
Thank you. Councilor Thompson, I think you had something to start off with?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, Lieutenant. Thank you for being with us this evening and your time tonight to discuss this important situation. So we called you before to discuss Brockton PD's strategies to address the growing homeless encampment problem that we see downtown. The council recently took the extraordinary measure of overriding the mayor's veto on the camping ordinance. So it's clear that it's the will of this council and the residents of Brockton to regain control of our public spaces downtown. And so in your time this evening, I was hoping that you could give us Brockton PD's take on the situation downtown, what the current strategy is to address the encampment issues, particularly under our bridges, and what, if anything, that this council or the mayor's office could do to help address this important matter.
Thank you, sir. Lieutenant William Schleman from the Brockton Police Community Engagement Unit, here, of course, on behalf of Chief Perez. To answer the council president's questions, the police department has deployed plainclothes officers out of our patrol force in an unmarked car to the downtown area. They are out on all 3 shifts. They have made an impact in that area. I know these officers have been out. They've made arrests for misdemeanors and felonies, from drinking in public to drug use, drug distribution, lots of warrant arrests. The officers have been involved in physical altercations with the folks out there, so it is a tough job. It is dangerous. I think that elevates a little bit more when they are out in plain clothes because they get a little bit closer and, for I think lack of a better word right now, they sneak up on people, which is great. That's how we catch people. So that's one resource that we've been able to deploy and utilize out there. So we're trying to selectively pick off the people that are out there committing the crimes. We also have a compassionate side that we understand that there are folks out there that have struggles, and unless we can work with our social service agency partners and come up with a real robust plan and solve some of these underlying issues, that we can't take a strictly enforcement strategy and work our way through this camping issue, the folks living outside unhoused. So we do mitigate our enforcement with that compassion, with that humanitarian piece of it. Getting away from that, I've had discussions with the DPW commissioner about adding cameras downtown. Right now, only one of the bridges is covered by a camera, so we're working on getting cameras deployed downtown. We've also spoken with the IT department to try to add cameras to Finnegan Park over on White Ave, Montello and Crescent Street in that area. I reached out to the MBTA today to try to get some of those no trespassing signs that were put under the bridges replaced. As you may have noticed, some of them have been vandalized or torn down. BAMSI has been given a $300,000 grant to open up a day center in the downtown area. They're actively looking for a site to house that day program, so that'll bring a lot of the folks off the street that, as we know right now, Father Bill's Mainspring operates. They ask everyone to leave during the daytime. They are going to have a day program when they move up to Manley Street, but we don't expect all of our folks that are hanging out under the bridges to go to Manley Street. We expect that a good handful of them are going to remain in the downtown area. When this day program opens up through BAMSI, that'll give us another resource to refer people to. We've also put a lot of stock in the upcoming community court out of Brockton District Court. Our next planning meeting is tomorrow at 3 p.m. So we're going to meet with the folks and a lot of the stakeholders with that. And ideally, if we can get the folks into the community court, the idea is to have a resource table, folks set up behind the court. So if we get them through the front door for whatever the violation is, something minor, be it camping, drinking in public, the drug use, if we can get them into a community court with the resources behind them to try to fix some of the underlying issues, we're very hopeful that that'll help alleviate a lot of the issues downtown. That all being said, we have cleared out encampments. It has happened. Again, we're selective. We've cleared camps out of White Ave. We're deep on the west side off of North Pearl Street, clearing out an encampment at the end of last week. Officer Salamone and I are going to be up at Westgate Mall tomorrow, clearing out an encampment there. That one's on private property, so that's easy. We didn't really need the camping ordinance, but it's beneficial to us to be able to leverage that ordinance, get that word out there that you can't set up camp here because of all the associated issues that we're all too familiar with there. So it is hugely helpful to us. Beyond that, we have clinicians out there 64 hours a week. So we have a full-time and a part-time clinician still on staff with us. They are not case managers. They cannot follow people through and really manage their journey, but they do help in a crisis and they do help make referrals in the moment, but they're not able to follow through with folks. That's a common misunderstanding. And then as far as working with the DPW, I know I mentioned the cameras that hopefully are going to be forthcoming. They also come out with us 3 times a week in the morning. So they come out early in the morning. We help them ensure safety, ask the folks to move on. The bridges are still cleaned 3 times a week. And we've had discussions with Father Bill's Mainspring. They're looking at putting storage units somewhere in the downtown area. So not the commercial type storage units, but something small where people can keep their valuables during the daytime so they don't get lost. And those are my bullet points that I have. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Right. Thank you for that, Lieutenant. That was informative. You mentioned a $300,000 grant from BAMSI. That's a grant that's been awarded to the Brockton PD, or is that to the city, or this is the first time hearing it?
Yeah, I was just informed of it today myself, so I haven't had a lot of time, or any time really, to research and see where the money came from, but I was told it was awarded to BAMSI. Whether it came through the city, as far as I know, it didn't come through the police department. I have never seen anything come through our grant office. So.
Okay, that's interesting. I think a day center in our downtown would be helpful in addressing some of these issues. Now, obviously, enforcement alone is not going to help resolve our encampment issue downtown. There has to be, multiple vectors of attack when it comes to cleaning up this area. I think it's important to make people realize that, as you see on TV, there's the law part and the order part. Right now, Brockton PD, you are fully capable of doing your part in the law part, but we need a system set up on the order part that if we do apprehend anybody or cite anybody under our ordinances, there's a court that's willing, number one, to take them, to hear the offense against them, and then provide diversionary, programs to help them, whether find housing, find mental health treatment, find drug treatment. But there be a process that's not punitive, but it's rehabilitative. And I think this community court will go a long way in providing a rehabilitative process to those who we cite for camping on our public property. And so I know this is not a problem that's going to be resolved overnight. I know that the Brockton PD takes this matter seriously, and I know that you'll provide all necessary resources and effort to address this matter. But we really do need the court system to be a part of this. And then we also need, other creative ideas from the city, from the state, from the feds to help address the homeless issue in our city. And I know in the past we've developed a task force for quality of life issues, and I know specifically it was developed to address issues downtown. Now it's kind of seen to take a wider view, and is now established to address quality of life issues throughout the city. But I think potentially what that's doing is watering down what I believe is a necessary smaller and laser focus on our downtown issues. So I'm hoping that when I'm meeting with the mayor that we can establish an auxiliary quality of life board that can focus on downtown issues specifically, maybe bring in a few of our residents who have a certain point of view on what's happening downtown, business owners that have their own point of view of what's happening downtown, and other stakeholders, whether it be the Brockton PD, social services, ISD, myself. But I just think if we could develop a task force that addresses specifically downtown quality of life issues, maybe these issues can be addressed a little more quickly, a little more effectively, because I truly believe as our downtown goes, our city goes, and the open, obvious, and real eyesore, both waste-wise, both perception-wise, both just creating a mood downtown. The current situation under our bridges really, is kind of creating a perception downtown that we have to address, and that if we want people to continue to come in our downtown, invest in our downtown, and feel welcome to our downtown, we really got to address these issues both under our bridges and in Finnegan Park. And anything I can do as the Ward 5 City Councilor to help Brockton PD carry out that mission, then, I'm here ready, willing, and able to help. So again, thank you, Lieutenant, for coming before us. And if you had any comments on a downtown-focused quality of life task force, I'd love to hear your feedback on that.
I think there's huge value in it. What I'm seeing right now is the issues that we're addressing downtown, we're just displacing them other places. The couple that's living in a tent up off of North Pearl Street was previously downtown, so we just displaced them there into essentially a residential neighborhood. So we just moved the problem. The person that's living up at the Westgate Mall, we displaced him out of DW Fields Park. So if we can, I agree, the laser focus on the downtown area really is an economic hub. That would be hugely helpful, I think, and beneficial to the city. But we also need that component of helping address some of these underlying issues. And there are folks out there that don't want help, and they're more difficult to deal with. No, I agree.
Right, and that's why I think once the community court's set up, because right now we're in a situation where if people are refusing to leave or, essentially just refusing to leave, I'm not going anywhere, there's a difficulty in detaining them or citing them, and then them coming into court. There's a difficulty without a court system in place that's going to take the matter seriously and that is expecting the homeless or people that may be mentally ill or drug addicted. You know, we do have a drug court. There are a lot of good results out of that drug court. But once we have a community court, then the city will have a little more, be able to put a little more force behind our ordinance, that those who are refusing help, you know, there'll be a mechanism to enforce that help. And so I think, you know, we need to get to that place as soon as possible. And I think once we start addressing the matter, a few people get put in the community court pipeline to help them, I think a lot of people will see that Brockton's taking this serious. I can't just lie here with no repercussions or consequences for my actions. Maybe I should take this somewhere else. And once we're able to do that and there's a new, you know, kind of a new environment downtown, I think that'll go a long way to addressing both our unlawful encampment issues, our loitering issues, you know, and the full perception issue of downtown. So I'm confident it will happen. I, too, will be present tomorrow as an advisory board member for the community court, and I'm interested in getting that program off the ground and what they have in store for that court. We'll make sure that the district attorney and his office comes before this council to give us an update on the community court once that court becomes active. And so, you know, it's the county, the state, the local government officials coming together, really trying to address a problem in our city. And I know once everybody comes together to address it, we'll get it done. Again, thank you, Lieutenant, for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Lieutenant. Good to see you. The next person I have on this is Counselor Azak.
Thank you. Good evening, Lieutenant.
Good evening,
Thank you so much for that update. You know, I think there's good things. It's working. It's starting to work, so I was happy to hear that you're able to work with this ordinance, because when we were working on it, working on passing it, it was very hard, and, you know, a lot of questions came up, but I had no doubt that we, you know, our police officers are very compassionate people, so I'm happy to hear that, you know, you're working with the community, the unhoused community. So I heard what Councilor Thompson was saying, but I know this is a major problem downtown, but it is affecting, you know, the whole city, and I know that we're very affected up on the northwest side with Westgate Mall, DW Fields Park, so I'm happy to hear that you're going to be there tomorrow. And I'm hoping we'll get the Mr. Jeffrey Smith from the DA's office to come before us at some point and explain a little bit how the community court's going to work. I know that you're all meeting, and that in these meetings, what I'd like for you to keep maybe in the back of your mind is, how can we strengthen this ordinance, or what can we do, you know, to amend or make it stronger so it can help you enforce, you know, make enforcement a little bit easier. So I just wanted to thank you. I noticed a big difference downtown. I've even gotten calls from residents that have said, wow, you know, they're passed under the bridges and they've been clean. So thank you. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Tavares.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I have just a couple questions. When do you guys approach it to those rumors, like, you know, do you guys ask the question why they there for?
When they're out, the homeless out in the community, why they're there?
Yes.
We oftentimes have conversations with folks, you know, are they from Brockton? If not, where did you come from? What drove you to the street? Sometimes, you know, the typical answers we get are their mental health issues, or they become evident quickly. Substance use is a big one. Sometimes folks are just there for economic reasons. They lost a job. They've just fallen on hard times. And then there are folks that just live the homeless lifestyle. They choose to live that way. And then we have folks that are downtown socially or for purposes of selling drugs. That's their clientele downtown. So we oftentimes have those conversations, yes.
Like, you know, what's your answer to them? Like, you know, how's your office react to those answers to them?
How do they react? with compassion, with understanding. It's not a unique problem, and there are folks that have overcome that, and there are folks, obviously, that still struggle with that. Many of the officers have close friends, family member, childhood friends that struggle with substance use or mental health, so it's not foreign to us.
Then you give them a choice, say, hey, BMZ or such as this organization offers, benefits for you guys, and what they said, they want to take it, they need help, or?
Yeah, you get a little bit of everything. If you catch someone at the right moment, they may be willing to accept help. Oftentimes, I'll go up there tomorrow, or I'll think about it. But we don't quit. We keep reminding them. We encounter these folks. We address issues, and we see them daily. Several times a day, 24 hours a day. So they know we're there. We are the resource brokers for them. We know where all the resources are. We know where BAMSI is. We know where Brockton Neighborhood Health Center is. We know where the VA is. We know where the Vet Center is for folks that served in the armed forces. We know where to send folks, and they're aware of that. We have our clinicians that we can call down to the scene to make other referrals out when that's needed. But every case is different.
All right. Because actually, a couple of days, I was literally working around, start talking to them. Most of them, literally tell me, well, we're here because we don't have no place to go, which sometimes I so believe because I do work with the community, every Thursday, kind of help those people to prevent kind of rumorless, or they already rumorless, they can't find a shelter because Brockton is literally full. Even myself, I make a couple calls sometimes. They say that, yes, is after 4 o'clock, we're not taking anybody. We full, we don't accept at this point. They got to go through the process. I actually, literally, the situation, it kind of literally complicated. I'm looking for both sides because at the end of the day, we deal with the human like us. They have a right, we do have the same right. My goals, I understand the business owners. I understand the downtown. We want everything to looking great. I think my main focus here is to work so hard on to find a resource for those folks out here, or even to hire more social worker or people literally with more expertise on this area to work with those folks. Because as we all know, Brockton, we don't have much resource because I can prove that myself. I've been work on this, every Thursday, like I said, work with the community, try to find a resource. There's not much resources in place. And I don't think, literally enforce them or arrest them or print them, whatever, is going to work that much without Plan B, which I've been saying a long time ago. I think we need to focus on find a resource more than looking to penalize them, because my understand when they get the arrest, it's not gonna be easy for them to find housing.
Correct.
Because every time I did apply tons of it, because the background, because they're being arrested, is gonna be an issue or problem for them to get the housing. I don't want that to complicate it more. Because the reason I'm saying this, like I said, I work hands on it. And then I know the situation, I know the feel, I know the pain. And I don't want us just to concentrate and enforce law more than we did. I wanna see we literally working as a team, try to find a resource for those folks. Because we're here tomorrow, we're here today, but we don't know what's gonna happen to us tomorrow. Not necessarily for us to use that power to kind of go way behind.
So, Counselor, you're absolutely right. With folks with an open case, it is difficult for them to find housing, and housing is in short supply. And we recognize that, too. We can't arrest our way out of this. There is no panacea. There is no one cure-all. It's a very complicated issue. So, we don't want to give someone a criminal case or court complaint and arrest when it's not necessary if we can connect them with the right services. They're all very good points. They're well taken.
I think, when you find a situation like that, they don't want to let it go instead of, you force them to the court or whatever. I think it's better involve the social work and then resource. In case that did not work, then, we can move for a second step. That's my own thing I said again. We just need to be careful because we deal with a human like us. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rodriguez, followed by Counselor Nicastro.
Thank you, Lieutenant, and thank you for being here, and thank the men and women of the Brockton PD for the work that they do to keep our streets safe and clean in some instances. At least the way I see it, the homelessness issue is multifaceted. It's not one solution. It's not one issue that actually leads people to become homeless, as far as I'm concerned. But what I see is that sometimes when the problems at home is harder than the problems in the streets, some people are choosing street life versus home life. Because when we were discussing the ordinances that we're dealing with here, we had a woman specifically that I remember that she used to live in Lakeville, and she became homeless in Lakeville of her choosing. But then I asked her, why is it that you are not in the streets in Lakeville? And she basically said, that's because Lakeville wouldn't put up with that. That actually leads me to believe that we're making it a little easier for people to be in the streets of Brockton than some of these other communities. That I think, to be honest with you, some of us that are married and have married life or whatever, but if the home life is harder than what it would be in the streets, a lot of us would choose to be in the streets. If people are feeding you, giving you clothing, and making it easier for you to be in the streets than it is to be at home, then the choice is very simple, because this woman didn't put much of an effort to basically mend the fences of the issues that she was having at home and chose to be in the streets, but chose to be in the streets of Brockton. And one of the things that, I know that a lot of us that supported that ordinance, we're not anti-homeless, we're not against the unhoused. We are just folks that have to deal with issues of the business owners and the residents of the city. We have a housing complex right behind the post office here, Crescent Court. Those kids, their elementary school is either the Downing School or the Arnone School. And some of the ones that actually go to the Arnone School have to travel under those bridges to go to the Arnone School. These poor 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds have to walk in the middle of the road because their sidewalk, and I say their sidewalk because they're residents of Brockton. They're not from Weymouth, they're not from some of the other communities that the vast majority of the homeless that we see here in the city are coming from. These poor kids, of no fault of their own, have to walk in the middle of the road dodging cars to get under the bridge. I actually received a call from a woman that said, I need to get a bus to take my kid to the Arnone School. And I said, well, you're within that mile circumference, they're not going to give you a bus. And she said, my 8-year-old is petrified of going to school because he had his lunch bag taken away from him by one of those individuals under those bridges. So it comes back to, and I know when we were debating this issue in the council, I didn't have a chance to speak because I was actually at the perch. But it leads you to believe that who's watching out for these 8-year-olds? Who's sticking up for the 5-year-old, the 6-year-old, the 7-year-old? We had a report of another 5-year-old collecting syringes under those bridges because as he was going to school, and he says, I'm going to go home and play doctor with the syringes that he finds in the streets. And we know that those syringes that are being dropped are not clean syringes, which is a major problem as far as I'm concerned. And one of the issues that I had with some of the opponents, the agencies, now, I received 3 phone calls from people protesting or against the ordinance. And there were 3 agencies that supposedly deal with the homeless population. I didn't get a single call from a resident saying, you guys are mean, you guys are doing this, you guys are doing that. On the contrary, received a gazillion phone calls of people saying, you need to do this, you need to support this, from businesses and residents of the city. which leads me to believe that we're here to support the residents of this city and that 8-year-old or the 5-year-old that actually are walking under those bridges. My question to you, because I also heard from one of your officers actually that told me that they saw a Weymouth police cruiser bringing 2 individuals into Brockton and letting them out under the bridges, right by the post office, just kind of opening the door and saying, have fun. My question is, has there been any discussion from either the police or from the administration or from somebody into these other communities that are using Brockton as a dump? And I'm going to use the word dumping because that's exactly what some of them are doing. They're throwing these people in the streets. I mean, they're not even treating them as human beings, because when you open the cruiser door and you say, well, get out, that is not being humane. Do you know if there's been any discussions at all in talking to some of these surrounding communities to either A, come to the plate and do the things that you need to do to help your own populations, or B, work with the city to basically help us in this process of dealing with this?
So specific to the Weymouth cruiser, it's the first I'm hearing of it. I'm not familiar with it. I can certainly look into that if I can. Without a date and time, it might be a little difficult. So that circumstances specific to that, I don't know. I do know Father Bill's Mainspring has a catchment area that includes, I think it's 12 communities outside of Brockton, or it might be 12 that includes Brockton, I'm not sure in this moment. So if these folks are coming from one of the communities that's in the catchment area for Father Bill's, then I believe that's how they get their funding. I'm not an expert in any stretch of the imagination of how they get their funding. This is only what I've been told. So they have to accept folks from certain communities. If Weymouth is one of them, or these folks just happen to be in Weymouth on that day and asked for a ride back to Brockton and they gave them a courtesy transport getting out onto the bridge, I think is suspicious. But as far as I know, is having these other communities come to the table and share the responsibility for the homeless in Brockton. I'm not aware of any discussions that have happened.
Oh, because one of the issues that at least some of us have with this particular issue is the fact that if you're homeless in Boston and you go into a shelter system in Brockton, common sense says that you don't know your surrounding, you don't know anybody down here. Once you get out of the shelter at 7 o'clock in the morning, where are you going to go? You're going to hang out in the streets and do whatever you can. There's also issues where another lady that actually had, I think, spoke with Councilor Izak and myself outside in the parking lot, because there were some folks in the audience here saying you got to build more shelters, build more shelters, build more shelters. And there was a woman there that I said, why don't you go into the shelter? And she says, I don't want to go into the shelter because they have rules. And I guess once you violate those rules, your home is under those bridges. So there's got to be a way of, of creating some sort of a bridge, between the shelter system and their rules and the streets. It's not just, well, we don't like the way they came in because they looked, I thought they had used alcohol or they were a little on the drunk side. So our rules is if you're coming in a little on the drunk side, you can't come in, and not realizing that when you say you can't come in, what other choice do they possess? It's those bridges or the encampments that they're setting up all over the city. So there's got to be a balance between the two. It can't be, well, we get to set up the rules because we're the agency that decide on what happens, and then the city is stuck with either you put in some ordinances that people view as being inhumane, or you do nothing and surround our community to the issues that we're facing right now. So there's got to be a balance in place that, conversation needs to be had with these agencies that you got to be a little more lenient if you want to deal with the issues that we're dealing with. You can't just say, we know that the vast majority of the people who are in the streets are suffering from either alcohol or drug or mental health. So if they come in and they're not acting properly according to what your rules are, you can't just open the door and kick them out, because by kicking them out, you're basically kicking them out in the streets of the city of Brockton. So I wish for us to become more of an advocate in defending the city with some of these agencies that, you're getting resources to deal with these issues. The city isn't. You just said it a few seconds ago, that the police department is not even aware of the grant that came through to deal with the state program. So it's not coming through the city, but it's coming through these agencies that need to step up and come up with a game plan to help us deal with this issue, other than just, basically complaining that you guys can't do this, you guys can't do that, because we also have to speak for the 5-year-old and the 8-year-old that's walking to school versus, well, as I was told by somebody that's pretty affluent in this community that said, well, the kids can walk around. And when you live in Crescent Court and you got to go to the Arnold School, the only way you can walk around is all the way down to Grove Street. And I don't think it makes much sense to come out of Crescent Court to Oak Street and then to the Arnold School, but that's the situation that we're living. And it seems that we're protecting people from outside of this community and not really doing much to deal with the citizens and the residents of this community. But again, I appreciate all that you do and continue to do the great work that you guys are doing to help us with this.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, Lieutenant Schliemann.
Good evening, Councilor.
I've been very grateful for the help that you and other Brockton police officers have given us in Ward 4. Most of the, in fact, I think all of the instances where I've been involved and you've been involved, it's been on private property. And so therefore, these ordinances that are being discussed weren't applicable. I don't think the answer is more shelters. And I wanted to ask you, do you think a day program, creating a day program, will help with the majority of the people that you see on the streets?
I think it will help. Will it help with the majority? I don't know. The folks that want help, want to be out of the elements, absolutely. It's going to make an impact. How many? We'll have to wait and see.
I know several women who were homeless at one time or another and wouldn't go into a shelter because they were afraid of being harmed in the shelter, which I can say. I just want to say thank you for the work that you do. You're doing God's work as well as Brockton's. And I also wanted to mention Commissioner Hill sitting behind you. I often speak to him about how his highway department guys are also doing God's work and cleaning up under the bridges and the other places where the unhoused are known to congregate. And I give a shout out to the highway department guys. It's often unpleasant and it's so necessary, and we're grateful. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilors, a motion?
Make a motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion's properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Council?
Let's finish.
Councilors, that is the end of our agenda. We'll move to councilor recognition. Councilor Castro.
Thank you. I have two good things to talk about. Today, at the Council on Aging of Brockton, the ribbon was cut on the newly renovated center, which includes about 4,000 more feet of space for people to enjoy themselves. It is open to all seniors who reside in Brockton. It's a great thing, and I urge seniors to go and see it and enjoy it. All kinds of programs are being offered. The Council on Aging has a monthly newsletter that is available online. It was just terrific. I congratulate Janice Fitzgerald, who is the director there, and her team. Wonderful, wonderful effort. Paid for with federal ARPA funds, which is great. And the second thing is, Brockton has many talented students living here. We're so proud of our children. There are athletes, actors, musicians, singers, smart kids, and kids that bloom at different times in their lives that they are the shining stars, the jewels in our crown, if you will. And so I want to talk about a Ward 4 resident today, a young man who made us quite proud. He was featured in yesterday's Boston Globe magazine. His name is A.J. DeBantis, And he lives in Ward 4. He's a graduate of the Davis School. And then he went to St. Seb's because he was recruited for basketball. He is quite a talented basketball player. He transferred to a school in Utah and will start college next year at Brigham Young. He is the most highly touted basketball prospect in Massachusetts history. After a year at Brigham Young, he will be eligible for the NBA and will probably go into it. His parents, also Ward 4 residents, immigrated from the Republic of Congo and Jamaica. They have 2 daughters in addition. I'm so proud of this young man, and I'm so happy for this family. And I wanted you all to be aware of it. AJ DeBanza, you're going to see him on the NBA, on basketball games in the near future. Congratulations to his family. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Minichiello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to announce on Monday, the 10th, there will be a real estate subcommittee meeting prior to our meeting, our 7 o'clock meeting, so it will be at 6 o'clock here at City Hall.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Seeing none, with no further business before this council, I declare this hearing closed.